friends. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to be fair or unfair. So the first thing I'm going to show you guys, as it's coming up, is this picture. And just take a look for a minute. What do you notice inside of this picture? Look at the little boy. Look at the little girl. Anything that you notice? Probably one of the first things that you notice is that the little girl has a huge cookie, but the little boy has only a little cookie. And a big thought bubble is coming out of the little boy, and it said, "It's not fair." And it looks like the little boy's a little bit sad by this, and the girl seems to be super happy. So my question for you guys is, what makes something fair or unfair? I'm going to give you guys a bunch of examples. I'm going to have two little signs. I know they're backwards because that's what happens when you're in the camera sometimes. But we're going to see, I'm going to ask you guys to think about it. If you want to write one, hold it up. If we were inside my classroom, we would do it like this. But I'm going to hold them up for you guys and show you which one I think it's going to be. But I'll give you a little time to guess too. But again, if you want to real quick, pause the video, make a sticky note, fair, unfair, and do this with me, go for it. So here's our first situation. Being called out while trying to make it to second base because you're a split second too late. Is that fair or unfair? I'm going to look at my two cards. I'm going to go with fair. Okay, oops, that's just my phone. Let me make sure that's on silent. Yeah, I think being called out while trying to make it to second base because you were a split second too late, guess what? That's fair because you were late, right? What do you guys think, baseball fans? Here's another example. Sharing a candy bar and cutting it evenly, right down the middle, fractions, Mrs. Hibbard would be really happy. An equal fraction, half and half for you and your friend. Fair or unfair? Think about it. Think about it. I'm going with fair. Definitely. It's even. I think that's pretty fair. Losing a game because someone cheated. Ooh, I hate anything to do with cheating or lying or those things. And I think that really is going to be unfair, right? It doesn't really count if that person cheated, right? I think most people would say that's pretty unfair. Let's keep going. Taking turns playing a video game. Now, some of my gamers out there, my students who love playing video games, you probably are going to say, no, I want to play it all the time. But taking turns, what do you think? Fair. Ooh, Disney connection. Do you see Zootopia? Tripping someone in a race. So you're in a big race in PE or just running around on the playground or outside for recess and someone trips you. Just like Nick is doing to Judy Hopps. Is that fair or unfair? Talk to your neighbor, ask somebody. I think that's for sure unfair. If someone trips you, that's not very good sportsmanship. A ruler, like a king or a queen, making rules for their country. That sounds pretty fair, right? Or is that always fair? Wow, this one's a little confusing. A ruler, like a king or a queen, somebody like that, making rules for their country. Well, they have to make rules, right? They're the leader. It's like in my classroom. I have to make rules inside of my classroom. I have you guys help me, right? But are all rules always right? Could a king or a queen make an unfair rule? What do you think? I'm a little confused. And this is what happened, boys and girls, with King George. Let me just see if I can move my face a little bit here. Whoop, whoop, there we go, up I go. Okay, there's King George. Now, we're in the time of the colonies, okay? We're in the 1700s, and the colonies are owned by Great Britain, and King George is the king at the time. So, my question is, was King George being fair before the colonists signed that Declaration of Independence? We're going to learn more and more. The Declaration of Independence is when the colonists, the 13 colonies, declared, they stated that they want to be separated. So, is it really unfair what King George was doing? Let's see. I want you guys to, let's see if this clicks. No. Okay, here's a picture for you guys of really what colonial America looked like at this time. I'm going to use my little mouse here, right here. These are the colonies. There's 13 of them. We've talked about this a little bit before when we were talking about slave trade, that the southern colonies down here definitely needed a lot more slavery. We had the middle colonies in here, and then we had the New England colonies. Now, they're not states yet, although most of them have the same name that they do as their states. And over here, this one that looks like a flag, we call that Great Britain. And England is part of Great Britain. That's why you sometimes hear us call them the English or Great Britain. Either one we'll call them, but that's who owns us at the time. But let's see what happened. Watch this little video for me and just tell me, what do you guys notice?
Smishing and a splashing over the horizon, what can it be? The pilgrims sailed the sea to find a place to call their own. In their ship Mayflower, they hoped to find a better home. They finally knocked on Plymouth Rock, and someone said, we're there. It may not look like home, but at this point I don't care. Oh, they were missing Mother England. They swore their loyalty until the very end. Anything you say, King, it's okay, King. You know it's kind of scary on your own. Gonna build a new land the way we planned. Could you help us run it till it's grown? They planted corn, you know. They built their houses one by one. And bit by bit they worked until the colonies were done. They looked around, yeah, up and down, and someone said, hooray! If the king could only see us now, he would be proud of us today. They knew that now they'd run their own land. But George III still vowed he'd rule them to the end. Anything I say, do it my way now. Anything I say, do it my way. Don't you get to feeling independent, 'cause I'm gonna force you to obey. He taxed their property, he didn't give them any choice. And back in England, he didn't give them any voice. That's called taxation without representation, and it's not fair. But when the colonies complained, the king said, I don't care. He even has the nerve to tax our cup of tea. To put it kindly, King, we really don't agree. Gonna show you how we feel. We're gonna dump this tea and turn this harbor into the biggest cup of tea in history. They wanted no more Mother England. They knew the time had come for them to take command. It's very clear you're being unfair, King. No matter what you say, we won't obey. Gonna hold a revolution now, King, and we're gonna run it all away with no more king.
We're gonna elect a president.
No more king.
He's gonna do what the people want.
No more king.
We're gonna run things our way.
No more king.
Nobody's gonna tell us what to do.
Rocking and a rolling, swishing and a splashing over the horizon. What can it be? Looks like it's going to be a free country.
All right, boys and girls, so let me get myself back here. What did you guys notice? There was a lot of things I noticed as we watched that video. Okay, so things seemed pretty good in the colonies at first. They really needed the king to give them some money in order for them to build their colonies. Everything seemed pretty great. But then the king really, they kind of made him to seem pretty greedy, right? That he wanted all these things, and he really started to be what we kind of would say is unfair. He made all these rules, all these taxes he put on the people, and all of a sudden the colonists were like, we don't want to be a part of this anymore. We don't want to be a part of Great Britain. We want to be independent. We want to be on our own. So the biggest thing that happened, boys and girls, that we're going to see is that the colonists came up with this whole list of grievances. Now, a grievance is really like a complaint that they're complaining about. Here's some of them that King George was doing and the British were doing to the colonists. That the British soldiers in colonies, they would have to let them in. Okay, we call it quartering. Okay, when the British soldiers would be here in America, they would travel across the Atlantic Ocean and they needed a place to stay. They knocked on your door and they said, hey, we need to stay here for the night because we don't have a place to stay. Do you think you could say no? No, it was a rule, it was a law. Okay, some of the time when these troops were breaking laws, when they would harm the colonists, guess what? Did they get in trouble for it? No, so they were upset about that. Other things were that all of a sudden King George said, hey, colonists, you can't trade with anybody else. Okay, you know our triangular trade, our slave trade? Nope, you can only trade with us, Great Britain. Is that really fair to do? And the last thing is they taxed everything. That's where you see the Boston Tea Party. They taxed their sugar. They taxed their tea. They taxed everything. And a tax just means they put extra money onto whatever they were selling, and that money would have to go to Great Britain. And they said, that's not fair. Okay, we can't deal with these things. So what did they do? They wrote the Declaration of Independence. They were done. And there's so many other causes that we're going to talk about with the Declaration of Independence, but this just gives you a little introduction to it. The colonists thought that King George was treating them unfairly, so they declared their independence, okay? And they put all of these complaints in there. Any guess on how many complaints that the colonists told King George? Any guesses? I'll give you, write it down, think about it in your head, whatever you want to do, and then I'll tell you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. 27 complaints they came up with, and they wrote in the Declaration of Independence saying, King George, you do this, you do this, you do this. All these reasons that they said, hey, we want to break apart from you. And this is what's eventually going to start, boys and girls, the revolution, okay? That really makes us into the United States of America like we are today. Now, boys and girls, you should be going in the same assignment or somewhere close. You should know, and it's also on your packet here, that you should be watching Liberty Kids. Liberty Kids, as I've said in the other video, is a great series. It's all historical. You can watch lots of episodes. I'm going to assign a few of them to you, and you're going to see how they really came up with those 27 grievances and how they came upon the idea of, okay, we're going to declare independence. We want to be on our own. We don't want to be colonies anymore. 13 colonies, no more. We want to become the United States of America. So watch that video and do the questions that go along with it.